Welcome! We're continuing with the Scout series in this video. We've already run simulations and analysed the primaries. Today we have the shotgun. We're only going to be looking at the Boomstick. The Scout series is building towards having every gun analysed in isolation, and then we're going to compare the full builds in a future video. A huge thank you to the players who helped with my research. Their willingness to share builds, ideas, playstyles is truly amazing and much appreciated. These are the mods used to create this video, and a huge thank you to the creators of them. At first we're going to have a brief look at some of the key gear mods and playstyles, and then we're going to run the simulations on the overclocks. Gear mods are quite straightforward, with the big decision around white phosphorus, and this is because with 50% damage converted to fire, it can impact our damage against oppressors and dreadnoughts, and also get in the way when we try to do things with cryo grenades and dealing high damage. Without white phosphorus, we can actually kill this frozen praetorian in just 2 shots. With it, we're actually going to deal less damage with our 2 shots to this praetorian, even though we trigger that temperature shock for the additional damage. But combining it with blow through and going up against hordes, it can be absolutely fantastic, especially if we can get that ignite spread going. The majority of players agreed white phosphorus was their go-to gear mod. Obviously the fire spread is great against the hordes, but also that fire damage can just finish off a target which just has a little bit of health left. It's obviously great against bacteria as well with that increased fire damage, and our other tier 5 options are just quite lackluster, one competing with Born Ready and the other actually only having a 25% per shot to fear compared to the increased damage we can get from ignition. There was pretty much universal agreement that the reload speed is a bit of a trap, and therefore quickfire rejector is just not as good as double trigger. Running this simulation side by side, we can actually see that double trigger can fire both shots and reload faster than quickfire rejector. I still test most things, and I was finding with double trigger that often I would reposition to get a better blow through shot, and in this case actually having a quicker reload could be more beneficial. For consistency in that in the need moment, double trigger is just going to be far superior. It gives you that additional burst DPS when you need it and sustainability in multiple situations. At tier 1 we have the option of increasing the damage of each of our pellets, and at tier 3 we have the option of increasing the amount of pellets we actually have. In this simulation we can actually see on the left hand side that the additional pellets is going to deal 88 damage, compared to the right hand side where we're only dealing 80 with the additional damage per pellet. The player Mount and Little Bobby Tables have actually created this spreadsheet together, and we can see this increased shell damage is consistent across our overclocks. Additional pellets also helps our base gun stats, since we've got that 2.5 second stun duration per pellet chance. With additional pellets selected, you are going to get that more consistent stun chance. On the left hand side, stunning all 6 of the targets, whereas on the right hand side we can see we stunned only 4 of them. Whilst on the topic of stun, let's have a look at improved stun and that potential for crazy 6 second stun duration. The base stun on the left hand side, you can see we can still get those 2 M1000 shots off, but on the right hand side it just gives us a bit more breathing room. This was our best case scenario, and now if we look at this one, we can see we can actually miss, and it can actually cause us issues if we don't have that improved stun. Players I spoke to would prefer to have the additional shells or ammo, but if you're on a controller or you've got a bad aim, the improved stun could be really helpful. Our final 2 gear mods I want to talk about is Super Blow Through rounds and Improved Blast Wave. Super Blow Through is just so good, giving us that chance to spread ignite to multiple targets in one shot. It's also great for if you get grunts getting in the way of, say, a praetorian, you can still fire through and get that fire ignition on it. And it's even great if you just have multiple praetorians lined up, you can start getting that fire ignition on multiple targets, giving you more chance for it to spread to the rest of the horde. Improved Blast Wave doubles our front AoE from 20 to 40 damage. This might seem like a lot, but swarmers are our main target, and with 20 damage we can already kill them in one shot. Super Blow Through rounds on the left hand side just completely destroys Improved Blast Wave, and that's when we compare it to time to kill or ammo consumed. Also, we have to think that it's actually a far riskier playstyle to be within that 4 meters to try and get that AoE damage. Super Blow Through rounds is just consistent and safe. This basically gives us our baseline for the gear mods in which we're going to test our overclocks, although the choice between damage and pellets is something we will come back to in the overclock analysis. With double barrel firing both shots at the same time, it seems like a perfect choice to pair this up with the cryo grenades and go for our big damage on larger targets. Firing both shots obviously makes us horribly inefficient when going up against a horde, potentially where we only need to fire 1 shell to kill our target, with firing both, wasting ammo. Focusing on large single targets like praetorians, oppressors and dreadnoughts, it's obviously going up against jumbo shells, and we can see here that jumbo shells kills the praetorian, but double barrel fails to do that. If we take damage and the extra shell so we have no ammo boost, we can kill this praetorian in just one shot. Jumbo shells deals more damage, only has 2 less ammo, and we can also use it on the hordes because we can fire one shot instead of both. I wanted to see if double trigger the gear mod could still get both shots off against the frozen dreadnought, and it still can, and jumbo shells are still going to be dealing more damage. This really puts double barrel in a bind, it's competing with jumbo shells and it just loses each time. I really struggle to find a use case for double barrel, but I'm sure in the comments section you will let me know what they are. Shaped shells gives us a much smaller aiming area, forcing those pellets into a more tight pack. This can really help us at range, and at 25 meters against this slasher, we can consistently get 2 to 3 shots to kill it. Comparing this to jumbo shells and stuffed shells, our average shots goes up. Yes, we can get some lucky shots and kill it in 2 shots, but the average is much higher, if not sometimes absolutely outrageously bad, as we can see with the stuffed shells example on the right hand side. Shaped shells continues the 2 shots at 25 meters. If we compare this against jumbo shells, it can actually get a 1-shot kill, although the average is actually 2 shots at 25 meters. This theme continues with our tri-draw simulations, with shaped shells being our best long-range option, but jumbo shells is really quite a close second. That additional damage reduces the chance that you're going to have to fire additional shots at long range, and if you do get that first hit, you're generally going to deal a lot of damage. Close range now, and against 8 grunts, I actually found shaped shells to be worse than all of our other overclocks apart from double barrel. The wider pellet spread on the other overclocks makes it much better against hordes of grunts, being able to spread that ignite and hit multiple targets in one shot. At medium to long ranges, that reduced base spread is making more pellets hit, causing more stun and more chance to ignite. Especially when we compare this to stuffed shells at similar ranges, we're not getting that consistent ignite. And the quicker you get that ignite, the faster you can start spreading it to the horde. Shaped shells is generally just quite a consistent overclock. You can still get that ignite on the hordes, but you can also get ignite and take out high value targets such as acid spitters and bacteria at medium to long ranges. This makes it great in play groups where the rest of the team are really good at taking on the horde. You might use it less for that, but then you've got a better option for those high value targets. Before we look at the next overclock, I wanted to try and answer the question of is damage or shells better when we go up against the horde. I ended up running an absolutely crazy amount of simulations trying to answer this exact question, running each of my simulations 9 times for each variation. In our tunnel simulations, high capacity shells with those additional free pellets is on average better than if we actually take damage on that right hand side. We know from earlier that more pellets is more damage, and more pellets gives you a greater chance to stun. What I think we are seeing here is with that stun, we're giving ourselves a bit more breathing room and also more chance to spread that ignite to targets which are coming up from behind, and this is really highlighted in this example with the tight gap that the enemies are trying to come through. The extra pellet seems to ignite more targets, the stun keeps them in place and then potentially spreads that ignite quicker. Extra pellets seem to have less of an advantage on jumbo shells, I think because the pure damage just takes the target down, and even if it doesn't finish them, if it's ignited, that ignite is just going to finish off that little bit of health and it's got less chance or less time to spread to other targets. Seeing how much the stun was potentially saving me in this scenario, I thought I would try stuffed shells with improved stun, and it was really interesting as I can control this corner so much and look at how much ignite I'm spreading onto these targets. This led me down the rabbit hole a bit as I thought maybe improved stun could be even better for the hordes and for helping with that ignite spread, but after testing various different scenarios, I actually found improved stun seemed to be a detriment if anything for trying to get fire spread going. This simulation set has been quite narrow in its focus, and we haven't even included IFGs. The potential for that slow to bulk up the horde can mitigate the extra pellets and that extra stun chance. Although ironically in some simulations I found I would actually consume more ammo when using an IFG. This is because I would either kill the target, or the target would have so little health the fire damage would kill it before actually spreading the fire to the rest of the horde. All I can say is based on these 2 scenarios and over these simulations that shells on average uses less ammo and kills quicker. Stuffed and jumbo shells were going to run together for our simulations, and we can see here that jumbo shells gives us a huge amount of damage at the cost of ammo, 1 pellet and that reload time. Breakpoints is not our sole focus in these simulations because that ignite and fire spread can make a huge difference to the ammo consumed and time to kill. Both overclocks kill the slasher in 1 shot. Jumbo shells obviously has that quicker time to kill, but it doesn't have that ignite, and actually a shorter time to kill could be more of a detriment. And we can see this in this simulation run here. Stuffed shells on the left hand side deals deals less damage, but ironically that actually helps us save more ammo because it allows the slasher to actually burn for longer, which gives it more potential for it to spread the fire damage onto other targets, whereas jumbo shells on the right hand side kills the target or leaves it on so little health that that fire spread can't happen. This then requires more shots to actually kill the same amount of targets. This is only one part of the equation because the other part is how often and how consistent we can get that fire spread started. Running loads of different simulations against the Glyphid Guard at different ranges and angles, jumbo shells is far more consistent at spending one ammo to get ignite started. This is really important because we need to ignite multiple targets if we want any chance of having that fire spread go through the horde, saving us ammo and time to kill. We can see in these simulations that we really need 2 targets near each other to be on fire. That will start to give enough fire heat damage to cause ignite on the rest of the horde. Jumbo shells is better at range at causing that ignite, and it's better at range against our high value targets such as acid spitters and Macteria trijaws. On average, it's going to use less ammo than our stuffed shells Overclock. Jumbo shells just always feels better against the horde than stuffed shells, even with that hit and 10 ammo. It took me quite a few games to really start getting the benefit of stuffed shells, each cherry pick those veterans like the slashers and the guards, and get much closer to try and guarantee that ignition spread. With jumbo shells though, we can just fire into the crowd, and we can do that at a greater distance, pretty much guaranteeing that we're going to get some decent ignition also. This makes it far more consistent and easier to use than stuffed shells. With a maximum of only 24 ammo, we need to use it wisely, kiting our enemies into better positions for blow through, using that fire spread and our other options such as our pickaxe and our primary gun. But even with this reduced ammo, that speed and ability to take down hordes quickly with jumbo shells is not to be ignored. And if ammo is your biggest concern, we can even take double ammo on jumbo shells, which arguably gives us still better stats than stuffed shells. After all of these simulations, I think it just shows that jumbo shells is just a bit more consistent. Yes, stuffed shells can have that plus 10 extra ammo, but you need to play around the limitations, whereas jumbo shells is just a lot easier to play with. Compact shells is effectively stuffed shells with a little bit less damage, but we gain a lot more ammo. Comparing this to the jumbo shell stats, we can see the additional 16 ammo and obviously that quicker reload time. The reload difference is quite considerable, but with animation cancelling, jumbo shells can get it down to less than half a second difference. Compact shells struggles even more than stuffed shells at trying to ignite a Glyphid Guard. You need to get within 4 meters for that AoE shockwave to really get a consistent ignite. And this simulation really highlights those ignition differences. Pausing after 2 shots, we can see how much fire spread is already going on that right hand side. Pausing now with 4 shots fired on the left hand side but still only 3 with jumbo shells, we can see with the jumbo shells example, nearly every target I think there is on fire, whereas on the left hand side we've only got 1 guard, 1 slasher and 1 grunt on fire. And this is going to make a huge difference to when we actually go to kite our enemies to try and get that fire spread going, and how much ammo it's actually going to consume at the end. We can see here at the end it's a huge amount of difference in ammo consumed and that time to kill, and this is why that fire spread and ignition on guards is so important. Stuffed shells is still 10 ammo ahead against jumbo shells and only 6 ammo behind compact. Compared to compact shells, we get a more consistent ignite chance and at better ranges against Glyphid Guards. Plus that additional pellet gives us a bit more stun chance, which can help spread that ignite also. But let's see how this story might change if we take compact shells with damage and those extra pellets. Here we have our base build which we've been using, so this is with the ammo at tier 1 and then the extra pellets at tier 3. We can also throw in this double ammo jumbo shells build just so we've got a comparison, but the player mount actually prefers to use compact shells with both damage options, and that brings up these stats and they're really interesting when we look at this all together. This moves compact above stuffed shells and between those 2 jumbo shells builds, but also the main thing is we've got almost the same ammo but more stun chance than that double ammo jumbo shells build, and that superior reload time. A ton of simulations later, and then we've got data on compact shells versus our 2 jumbo shells builds. Let's have a look at what comes out on top. Going up against 4 grunts, 4 slashers and 4 Glyphid Guards, and compact shells with that damage and pellets performs really well. Those pellets really helping stun the targets and keep that fire spread going. We have an average of 6 ammo to take these targets down. Jumbo shells with double ammo, I really struggle to get that ignite and it consumes more ammo. Jumbo shells with ammo and pellets still comes out on top, on average saving 0.5 ammo over the compact shells build. It really is still so consistent, but we have less ammo to start with compared to compact shells. We seem to be seeing more evidence that the additional pellets with that extra stun chance really does help bulk up the horde and help us with that fire spread. The simulations suggest compact shells is more consistent than double ammo jumbo shells. The choice between the 24 ammo jumbo shells build or the 32 ammo compact shells build is going to be down to your playstyle. Special powder is a lot of people's favourite, and once you start using it, it can be quite hard to stop using it. It obviously helps us avoid fall damage, but it can speed us through our mission objectives, and this can save us from spawning entire waves on missions. It's also great to get us out of sticky situations, especially if our grappling hook is on cooldown. This allows us to avoid damage from the enemies and reposition safely. That repositioning is a double-edged sword because we can take a huge amount of fall damage from it, and special powder has got quite a high skill ceiling. The majority of players in my research agreed that they would take both damage and pellets when it comes to special powder, and this backs up our data with that helping to cause that ignite. By doing this, we still get that 165 damage and 11 pellets, which we know is pretty consistent for igniting against hordes, but we obviously have that hit and 6 ammo that compact shells brings. This puts us in a position where to have a decent ignite and wave clear, we have to be a little bit conservative when we actually use special powder. We can't just willy-nilly bounce around all of the cave all day long. The core focus of these simulations has been that efficient horde wipe, but we also need to consider the ammo we have and if the overclock has that special quality. In the middle we have our best overclock for efficient horde wipe, and the data suggests for that is jumbo shells, ammo and pellets. Moving away from the efficient centre but towards total ammo, we've got compact shells with damage and pellets, and then we've got jumbo shells with ammo. And stuffed shells moving even further away from the efficient centre. And finally we've got shaped shells and special powder. Obviously both have that quality, one being range, one being movement, but they're definitely further away from that total ammo and efficiency. I have obviously not tested and run simulations on every single different build and overclock combination. I've based this with the research I've done with high level players and what they use, and so my data simulation set is going to be based around that. If your favourite overclock and build is not on this list, I apologise, but please let us know what it is in the comments. If you found anything helpful, please consider dropping the video a like. Also, it takes me so long to make these videos. If you want to be aware of the next one, consider subscribing to the channel. A super special thank you to Little Bobby Tables and Virian and everyone in the Gaming Existence Discord channel. I'll see you next time.